Let's talk about a feeling we spend billions of dollars trying to avoid. A feeling so hated, it's considered an enemy. I'm talking about boredom. But what if I told you that this enemy is secretly your greatest ally? Let's dive in. Okay, so meet Frederick Desnard. Back in 2016, this guy sued his old boss at a French perfume company for a whopping 360,000 euros. And what was their crime? Well, his job was so unbelievably mind-numbingly dull that he said it drove him into a serious depression. He called it a descent into hell. And the craziest part? The court actually agreed with him. So people will literally sue to escape boredom. But how far would you go? I mean, really think about it. What would you rather do? Sit alone in a room with nothing but your own thoughts for 15 minutes? Or, I don't know, maybe give yourself an electric shock? I know, it sounds crazy, but this is what researchers at the University of Virginia wanted to find out. They put people in a room, alone with a button. They told them, if you press this button, you will get a painful electric shock. The result? A quarter of the women and a staggering 2/3 of the men chose to shock themselves. They literally preferred physical pain over the discomfort of being bored.
That tells you something really deep about us, doesn't it? We are absolutely hardwired to run away from this feeling. We'll sue, we'll shock ourselves, we'll do just about anything. Which brings up a really important question. What exactly is this powerful force we call boredom?
You know, most of us think boredom means there's nothing to do, but that's not quite it. The real definition of boredom is when you have things to do, but none of them seem appealing. It's that uncomfortable little ping from your brain that says, hey, you're not connecting with the world right now. You could be doing something more meaningful.
And here is where things get really interesting. When you're bored, your brain isn't just off. It's not taking a nap. Far from it. When you stop focusing on the outside world, this whole other network in your brain lights up like a pinball machine. It's called the default mode network. So what's going on in there? Well, the default mode network is basically your brain's internal sandbox. It's where you think about yourself, dig through your memories, dream about the future, and try to figure out what other people are thinking. It's the engine of your creativity and your sense of self.
So if boredom is the key that unlocks this incredibly powerful part of our brain, what happens when we just let it happen? Well, it turns out that doing nothing can actually give you some pretty amazing abilities. Let's call them boredom's secret superpowers.
First one up is a big one. Allowing your mind to be bored can actually directly make you more creative. I know, it sounds completely backwards, but the science on this is pretty clear.
Check out this classic study. They took a bunch of people and split them into two groups. One group got to do a fun, interesting arts and crafts project. The other group, they had to do the most boring task imaginable, copying numbers out of a phone book. Afterwards, they asked both groups to brainstorm creative uses for a simple plastic cup. The result wasn't even close. The group that was bored out of their minds came up with way more creative and innovative ideas.
Okay, so it helps with creativity. That's cool. But it gets better. Boredom can also make us kinder. Yeah, it can actually push us to be more generous and helpful to others. In other studies, after being made to feel really bored, people were more likely to do things like donate to charity or sign up to give blood. So why would that be? Well, it seems that boredom makes us search for meaning, for a sense of purpose. And, helping other people is one of the fastest ways to feel like you matter. And that brings us to the third superpower. Boredom is an incredible motivator for thinking about your future and actually making plans.
Think about it. When your mind wanders, you're not just zoning out. Your brain is doing something scientists call autobiographical planning. You're thinking about your life story, where you've been, where you want to go, and the steps to get there. But if your brain is constantly distracted by a screen, you never give it the quiet time it needs to see that big picture.
So, boredom can be a launchpad for creativity, kindness, and goal setting. That's the good news. But, and this is a really big but, it has a dark side. When boredom stops being a temporary feeling and becomes a constant, chronic state, it can be genuinely dangerous. Let's be very clear. Chronic boredom isn't just a drag. It's a serious problem. It's strongly linked to depression and anxiety, to drug and alcohol addiction, to aggression, to doing poorly in school or at work, you name it.
Just how serious is it? Get this. One major report from the National Center on Addiction and Substance Abuse identified the top 3 risk factors for teenagers getting into substance abuse. The first 2 make sense: too much stress and too much spending money. But what was number 3? Excessive boredom. That's how destructive this feeling can be if it's never resolved.
This leaves us with a paradox, right? Boredom can be a superpower, or it can be a path to ruin. The difference isn't the feeling itself. The difference is how you choose to respond to it. And I can't think of a better example of this than two astronauts floating in the most boring environment imaginable, outer space.
On one hand, you have the Soviet cosmonaut Valentin Lebedev. Just a week into a 7-month mission, he wrote in his diary, "The boring routine has begun," and he just succumbed to the endless monotony. On the other hand, you have Canadian astronaut Chris Hadfield. In that same quiet, he used his downtime to learn guitar and record that amazing cover of David Bowie's Space Odyssey. He saw the empty time not as a problem, but as an opportunity.
And that, right there, is the entire point. Boredom isn't a state of being. It's a signal. It's a call to action from deep within your brain, an alarm bell ringing to tell you, hey, what you're doing right now isn't enough. You are capable of more. So, next time you feel that familiar itch, waiting in line, stuck in traffic, you've got a choice. You can reach for your phone for that quick, easy hit of distraction, or you can lean into the discomfort for a moment. Let your mind wander and give yourself a chance to create something new, to help someone, or to plan your future. Which one will you choose?
And that's our look at the surprising world of boredom. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, if you found this interesting, do me a favor and hit that like button. And of course, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what we've got coming up next.
And as always, if you want to geek out on the science behind this, all the studies and articles we talked about are linked right there for you in the description below. See you next time.